Okay, so I guess I could start the introductions. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us for our presentation of the power of knowing yourself, cultivating self-awareness for all ages. This afternoon, we are joined, this is going to be delivered by our partners from NG4SEL. And would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is Erica Brenton. I work for SEL4NJ. And Cleo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cleo O'Toole, and I am a certified school counselor in New Jersey, ages K through 12.
Thank you. So, our project, the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub, our project is all about recognizing that family engagement works best when students and families and communities collaborate to increase the engagement and partnership. So the goals of our project is to promote and engage in activities and policies that build partnership among youth, families, schools, and the communities in order to increase development for children and student achievement. So we provide a hub for family engagement. We are about collaborating and informing educators and practitioners and families about educational opportunities and barriers by providing technical assistance, resources, and support. We have usable information like our webinars and our presentations. We work directly with school districts, provide a voice for the youth, and are all about helping everyone work together. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Erica for this afternoon's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. Okay, so we're going to get started with our webinar for this evening. And this webinar is called The Power of Knowing Yourself, Self-Awareness for All Ages. Oop. Okay, so we would love to know a little bit about who's here in our Zoom room. So if you would not mind taking a minute to introduce yourself, where you're located, how old are your children or your child or children you work with, and what do you think of when you hear the term self-awareness? And we'll just monitor the chat for a minute. And even if you just want to say where you're located and how old your children are, that's fine too. We just would love to get to know or kind of know a little bit more about you. Okay. I think maybe what we'll do is we'll just keep monitoring the chat because I think sometimes when folks are on their um, uh,
hmm Yeah,
phones or different
it's
kinds of,
difficult to
oh,
get into the chat. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
exactly. Kim, thank you for chiming in. Um, believe that self-awareness is understanding who you are and how you relate to others. Fantastic. Okay, so let's keep moving on. If you would like to contribute to the chat, please do. There's no, you don't have to though, but we would love to kind of know where you are and how old your children are. Oh, Ernestine raised your hand. Yes, hold on, let me unmute you. Okay, I'm having trouble doing that.
Hello.
Yes,
Uh,
hi.
Hi. I think that's the problem. I couldn't see what I'm mute. Hello, family and group. My name's Ernestine Porter. I have a son who has been throughout the IEPs and early interventions since August 3. He's currently 12. He'll be 13 in September. And that's my thing. I am a mom.
Oh, Ernestine, you cut out, but we're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for sharing and introducing yourself, and we hope we'll get more from you as we go along here for sure. But thank you everyone for contributing to the chat. It sounds like we have a very nice age range here and lots of folks from New Jersey. So we're excited. Let's continue on. Please feel free to continue to chime in the chat. Okay, so just a little bit about who I am, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Cleo. So my name is Erica Brenton. I've been in education for over 20 years now. I started as a teacher in New York City, and then I became a social emotional learning specialist. I'm a consultant for the School Culture and Climate Initiative, where a lot of this work is coming from. I live in Montclair, New Jersey with my husband. This says my two husbands. I don't have two husbands. It's just one, and two children. I made a little mistake there. Sorry about that.
All good.
And they're in middle and elementary school. And I like to go on long walks and read and spend time with my family. So I'm happy to be here. And now I'm going to pass it over to you, Cleo.
Hi, everybody. Delighted to be here with you all. And my name is Cleo O'Toole. It just says Cleo on my Zoom name, Cleo O'Toole. I'm a certified school counselor, currently working in an elementary school in Montclair, New Jersey. I arrived at this particular professional role after a career change, after 10 years of being at home with my three children, spanning developmental ages from adolescence to early childhood. So I like to say I had it all the tantrums happening in my house. So, teenagers and toddlers. I'm deeply passionate about working with children in a school setting, collaborating and empowering students to embrace and develop their emotional intelligence, nurture self-awareness with compassion for themselves and others. I really believe that it's so difficult to get children to learn anything academic without these foundational blocks of with attention to their social emotional learning. And I'm just absolutely in love with my job and what I do, and I get to work with kids in this setting every day, and to me is a dream job. My hobbies, I'm a lifelong runner. I love going new places and I love being with my family. Um, that's what it's all about for me.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to hear from Cleo again in a bit. She's going to share all her wonderful ideas and tools with us. But right now, I'm just going to share a little bit about what we're going to talk about today and what we're hoping that you take away from today. So we'll watch a video in a moment about what is self-awareness. And then Cleo will introduce us to some tools. One is called the mood meter, one is called the meta moment. And then we'll do a bit of a closing. And we really hope that you walk away with just a better understanding of self-awareness and how to foster this in our children, and just that we really provide you with some concrete tools that you can use. So, just curious what you're hoping to take away from this webinar. So, it seems like we're able to access the chat, which is great. And if you're not, that's okay. Maybe you can just kind of think about it. But what is just one thing that you're hoping to take away from this webinar this evening? We'd love to know. So we'll just give you a minute to enter your answer into the chat, and then we'll go forward. Maybe this. Okay, thank you so much for putting your thought into the chat box. How to increase self-esteem through the process of self-awareness. Fantastic. That's definitely one thing that we're going to help you with today. Um, and then I'm going to advance to the next slide, but please continue to add any thoughts, anything that you're hoping to take away from this, because we also want to make sure that we're addressing any of your concerns and needs. So let's continue forward. Okay. Cleo, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. So the definition of self-awareness, we'll touch on this a little bit. So self-awareness is one of the core competencies of social emotional learning. So when we speak about core competencies, that's like anyone who's in education, you will probably like be aware of that term, and social emotional learning. S also acronym SEL. You'll hear a lot if your children are in school, maybe they're taking a curriculum. But certainly, I feel like lately there's a growing thirst amongst like definitely parents in general, adults to understand more what it is when we seek out our social emotional learning? What are we looking to enhance? What are we looking to grow? And we're really focusing on our emotional intelligence, right? So when we're looking to build these competencies, we're growing our emotional intelligence. And what I love about that idea is that you are born with an IQ that is pretty much it stays what it is. You are born with that. It can be assessed. It's a number, and it doesn't change. Your emotional intelligence can go up or down with your own recognition and attention to it. So we can grow our own emotional intelligence. It does not have a life. A life. It doesn't have a beginning and an ending to it. Your whole life, you can be working on your emotional intelligence, and that really draws me in because I, as a human being, look to, what can I do for my entire life? Like, what can I constantly be working on? And something that really sort of appeals to me is like, always expanding my emotional intelligence. Duval and Wickland, 1972. Self-awareness is a psychological state where individuals focus on their attention to their feelings, their thoughts, and their actions. Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence model. So he was somebody who came up with a theory around emotional intelligence, and self-awareness is the foundational emotional intelligence skill. So without self-awareness, regulation of our emotions and empathy becomes really difficult. So
Okay.
we're going to play that video now, Erica. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just going to play a very quick video that kind of shares a bit about what Cleo just touched upon and also just what is social emotional learning in general. I'm going to just get out of this PowerPoint for 1 second and let's see, and hit our video. So, okay. So we're just going to get this started.
For children, learning is a social and interactive process that takes place with teachers, other students, and parents. Our emotions and relationships affect how and what we learn. Students are far better prepared to succeed in school and in life if they have learned social and emotional competencies in addition to academic skills.
We know that when kids have strong social and emotional learning skills, that they are better able to achieve academically, better able to work with others on a team, to collaborate, to manage conflict, manage stress, to achieve goals. They have better life outcomes. So it's critically important that we take this seriously if we want to educate the whole child.
Social emotional learning is basically the focus on social emotional skills, how to interact with others, how to understand yourself, how to be able to behave in a way that you're supposed to in the right settings.
When we think about self-awareness, we're thinking about how do I know and understand myself, my emotions, my thoughts, my cultural identity. What are the ways in which I feel about a certain situation? Why might I feel that way? How do I understand myself and how I fit into my family and my community and the broader world? We want to give kids opportunities to really think about their own experiences, their own emotions, and how they are dealing with those things.
Self-awareness is really being in touch with oneself. I think as a parent, the best thing you can do is to be honest about how you're feeling, because kids look at us as we're invincible. We're perfect, and we're not. And so I think having honest conversations about your struggles, whether it's at work or, a goal that you're trying to achieve and the challenges that you're having in achieving those goals, kind of brings your situation down to their level so they know they're not alone and that it's normal to kind of feel these different things.
One of the things that we work on when we talk about self-awareness is helping students understand emotions. So teaching the vocabulary for emotions, teaching students to think about what different emotions feel like, and being able to name that for themselves is an important part.
As teachers and adults, we need to go to the next level. And that goes all the way to junior high and high school. There's things called emotion wheels where you have all sorts of words that even as adults we can look at and say, oh yeah, that's a great word for that emotion. So really being able to help them identify their emotions is huge and give them vocabulary that's challenging them. Secondly, then, what do they do with those emotions? what gets you nervous? Or when do you feel stressed out? Or when do you feel angry? Well, I feel angry when Johnny takes my truck. What do you do about it then? But in high school, the same type of thing applies. If I see my friend Stephanie talking to Lisa or sitting with her at lunch, what do I feel? I feel jealous inside. And then asking myself, is that really a big problem? Is that a small problem? In a classroom, we can model that for kids. So as a teacher, I can say, I'm really feeling disappointed today, fill in the blank. And maybe I'll even take some deep breaths, or gosh, everyone's really loud today. We couldn't go outside for recess. I'm feeling frustrated. I need to take some deep breaths. So modeling that for kids is really important.
Also teaching kids this idea that through hard work, that they're able to be more successful, teaching a growth mindset as opposed to focusing on you're smart, but rather focusing more on effort, helps kids to understand better who they are. Self-awareness is something that is constantly growing, and we want to be able to give kids tools and messaging around how to be thinking about their emotions and their understanding of who they are.
Okay. All right, I'm going to switch back to our presentation here. So hope that was like a nice, helpful overview. And I'm going to hand it back over to Cleo, who's going to share some of these fantastic tools with you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed that video. I love it. I think that there's a lot of things, they actually touch on a lot in 4 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm sort of going to distill down and focus really on giving you guys this afternoon two tools so that you can take some self-awareness tools that you can practice with yourself and with your students and with your children, hopefully after this webinar. So something pretty concrete. Like I said, I am a school counselor. So we work with a particular program called Ruler. That's a SEL curriculum designed at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. So within that curriculum, there are a number of tools. And again, today I'm going to share with you two of those tools. And the two tools that I'm going to share with you and offer you guidance on are particular, they focus on self-awareness and having children and adults. If you use these tools to really bring your attention to your emotions and what plays out in your body, and then your interactions with others. So the first one I'm going to share is called the mood meter. But at first, I just want you to understand that the building blocks of the Ruler SEL program are, the acronym stands for recognizing your emotions, understanding them, labeling them, expressing yourself appropriately, and then regulating. So I can say, hands up, anyone in the room that can struggle with all of that. And I would say most human beings, right? So recognizing our emotions, although sounds like some things most adults should know, we don't often, sometimes you miss it, right? And certainly kids are the same. So what I do at schools is I start a lot of my foundational work with kids is using the mood meter. So I'm going to show you that tool now. Next slide. Thank you, Erica. So the mood meter is really a concrete tool for recognizing and labeling our emotions. And this particular tool can be used with students and adults from K through 12. I've found it in all of the uses of having children express their emotions appropriately. This one really has been the most effective in my experience. So it's a visual tool. It's divided into 4 color zones. It helps students build self-awareness by checking in with how they feel throughout the day. It promotes empathy by recognizing how they feel themselves and how they actually observe the emotions of their classmates. And you'll be able to see what I mean when we go into the next slide, and you can actually see what a mood meter looks like. So here is a mood meter, very simply. So you can see there are 4 quadrants, right? So we have, and I'm going to go through, I'm going to circle through the whole thing. So it can be very simple, and what you're looking at right now is the most complex version of it. So depending on the age group that I'm working with, I would probably do just the colors if I was working with kindergarten. And then if I was working with fifth graders, I would incorporate much more of the vocabulary related to the emotions and the colors. Okay. So we're going to start. First of all, it's divided into, I want you to look at it first before you look at the vocabulary for the emotions. I want you to think about those 4 quadrants. The first top 2, red and yellow, as being the higher energy part of the chart. And I want you to think about and look at the lower quadrants, the blue and the green, as being the lower energy. Okay, so you're splitting it now into the upper, higher energy, and the lower as low energy. And then I want us to look at it from left to right. Okay, so the red and the blue side quadrants are more unpleasant feelings, emotions. And then the right side, the yellow and the green, are more pleasant. So we're kind of sliding, if you can imagine, you're going from unpleasant to pleasant, and you're going from lower energy to higher energy feelings, right? So what I like about this is I speak to kids and students about this, about their emotions, a lot in like energy level and whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. Because depending on their vocabulary, they may not have a very extensive vocabulary for expressing their emotions, but most kids, in fact, all kids, will be certainly able to tell you whether they feel high energy or whether they're kind of feeling lower energy, whether it's pleasant or whether it's like, doesn't feel good, Miss O'Toole. So that's really a nice way to start. If you've got the younger kids, that's a great way to work around this meter. And if you've got the older kids, I'm going to get into the more complex vocabulary for you. So let's start on the red. So red, again, is our high energy, unpleasant. So some vocabulary, emotions would be angry, annoyed, scared, exasperated, anxious. And I put a question mark beside anxious. So, and stay with me on this, because for some, depending, I've found with older people like myself, anxiety, anxiousness is in the red quadrant. But for some children, anxiety can often be in the blue. It can be a lower energy feeling. So sometimes that's the vocabulary might trip them up a little bit, whereas the energy and whether it's pleasant or not, they can usually be more accurate with that. So we're going to stay in high energy, but shift over to more pleasant, yellow. So high energy, pleasant, so happy, excited, creative, playful, optimistic, right? And that's your high energy, pleasant. And then we're going to drop down, lower left side, blue, lower energy, unpleasant. So sad, hurt, lonely, bored, remorseful, ashamed. And again, when I'm building the vocabulary that goes alongside these quadrants with students, depending on their age group, I'm going to have a more expansive for older kids vocabulary and something more simple for the younger ones. But very simply, if you want to start this tomorrow with yourself or your children, you can just, again, use the energy levels and use that, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We're going to shift over to the green. So green is low energy, pleasant. So those would be feelings like maybe feeling calm, safe, trusting, thankful. The way I introduce this with students is I'll explain how you can move around the move meter, and then I'll invite them to come up, and I'll show you on the next slide how that works in a classroom. But and I have 2 check-in points in the day. So we do mornings and after recess. So those are 2 points in the day where, sometimes people come in the morning not feeling great, or they're feeling good. And then after recess, maybe something might happen out in the playground. Feelings can change. So if I want you to think about, maybe it's in your home, or maybe it's, if I think somebody here works in a school with children, but if you have multiple people contributing to the mood meter, let's say it's a classroom of kids, right? And as an educator, if you have a practice where you are asking your children to become self-aware of how they arrive into your classroom in a morning, let's say it's Monday. Monday can be a tricky day for some kids depending on where they're coming from. So you now have a visual representation of the emotional climate of your classroom. So you might have a bunch of people in the green, and you're like, oh, okay, everyone's kind of feeling good today. And in your morning circle, you might expand on that. Hey, I see a lot of people are in the green today. Can anybody share with me why? Oh, well, Miss, Miss Murphy, I had a great weekend. I did a lot of outdoor stuff. I just feel ready for school today. I got, whatever the reasons are. But you might have a number of students in the red. And maybe as a teacher or as a parent, if a couple of your kids are putting themselves in the red, you might just, it's information for you to figure out what's going on, maybe ask, do you need help moving from an unpleasant emotion to a more pleasant one? Um, Sometimes kids don't want to dive into the feeling, to the whys. They just might need to express it. And I have found this to be a really effective tool for kids in a school setting. I feel like sometimes it's a moment for them to, they might just need to share, or they might not. They might just need to let people know this is how I'm feeling. And then what I also find a lot of, they'll shift between two. They'll be like, oh, Miss O'Toole, I'm in high energy, a little unpleasant, but I also know later I'm going to see my friend and I'm kind of feeling, I'm optimistic about that. So I'm going to go somewhere between the red and the yellow. Because the truth is that we don't really live in one emotion at the, sometimes it's mixed, right? So they also get to play around with that. It's it's often the case within a school, and certainly maybe at home if you're using this with your children, they will love to put themselves right in that center spot, right? Because that's the only position that can be held by one name. I use magnets, so the kids will oftentimes somebody will put themselves right in the middle. And we get to talk about that. Like, whenever, as a human being, are you exactly all of the emotions at one time, evenly split? So I usually encourage teachers not to offer that spot. Just that's a no-go zone right in the center of the mood meter. But and what we will say to students is, are you interested in moving out of your zone if it's an unpleasant feeling? And how are we going to do that? So not only are we checking in with them, how are you feeling? Is it a feeling that you would like to change? And then how can you do that? But before I would offer them how we're going to change it, I would also, and I'll get into this maybe in the next slide, you really want to know what's going on in their body too. Like, where are you feeling that? Are you feeling a lot of anxiety? What does that feel like in your body? Does your tummy hurt? Does your head hurt? So we can kind of expand on that. But I really feel like it's a comprehensive way, visual tool, which children really respond to, and adults, to be honest, because I have had adults say to me, I often use this myself. I believe there's an app you can get on your phone and you can do it too. There's lots of creative ways to recreate this in your home. It can go on your refrigerator. And I'll show you in the next slide how I incorporate it into classrooms as a way to get students to participate. So here is the mood meter in action. So these are created, this is just a dry erase board, probably 16 by something. And then these are laminated just color cards cut into squares and placed together. And then on either side, left and right, you'll see those are actually magnets that I will have each student's name written on. And then so they know they can come in the morning, they'll pick their magnet up and they'll put themselves wherever they, whatever particular quadrant they feel like they are in that morning. At home, it can be something very simple where you get the kids to draw a mood meter, color one in, put it on your fridge, get a couple of magnets, and every morning, people get to check in. And I do find that like it causes a conversation. Maybe if it's not the morning is good for you, maybe it's the after school or late in the afternoon. And I just feel like even having it as a visual in your home just signals to to yourself and to your kids, because we model for our children what we want them to, the behaviors that we would like them to, um, to also do to grow their own self-awareness, is that it does invite, it's there for them if they need it. Maybe they don't want to talk about it, but they just want you to know, like, I'm feeling really angry today. And it's just a nice way for them to know that this is an outlet for them. Okay, Clyde, Eric. So, well, first of all, I just want to make sure I didn't miss a question. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I did miss my question. Sorry, Erica. If you can just go back to the mood meter just so that um, I want to make sure, because I can't see the slide number. I want to make sure I'm on 8. Am I on 8, Erica? That's okay. You know what? Let me just ask, and you guys can pop it into the chat if
Sorry,
you.
I'm not sure, Cleo, what number this is.
That's okay. I think it's a good time to ask this question, but for those of you here, how valuable is it for you to build your child's self-awareness, and why? And just whatever comes to mind. But really, maybe just focusing on, why is it valuable? Why is it valuable for them to have the ability to strengthen their self-awareness? What do you think it would help with in short-term and long-term goals, maybe for them? Okay, empowering my son through self-awareness that will allow him to navigate life with confidence. Yes, thanks, Ernestine, I think. So they have
And
control. Sorry,
mhm.
Erica, you go ahead. You
Oh,
want
no,
to.
no, no. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say Michelle
Mhm.
said so they have control, and then Kim mentioned so they can manage their emotions.
Mhm.
So a lot of great ideas here.
Mhm. Improve
Improve
relationships.
relationships,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. So one of the sort of within Ruler, we work with kids also a lot in conflict, and I feel that, like, one of the most effective ways to work through conflict is obviously the recognition and empathy for others, recognizing your emotions and the emotional state of others, right? So what I love about the mood meter in a classroom setting is that if your friend is in the red, and that maybe that might be the time to let something go on the playground. Now, that's those are very advanced skills to ask kids to have, but we always hold the bar high for them. We always hold the bar high for them. We presume they are capable, right? And I think that I'm just looking at the chat because I see accountability. Yes, responsibility, accountability, um, empowerment. Like, that is, we are always teaching our students that accountability for your emotions, for your part in a conflict, is very empowering. That's your power. You're not giving up your power. You're empowering yourself. You're taking ownership, and to really see students sort of um, build these relationships based in empathy and their own self-awareness and the awareness of others, and getting really good at saying, oh my gosh, like, I'm just so angry with you, or um, I work with kids individually too, and they can get through it if they can name it, if they can really tap into what's going on with them, and another student can tap into what's going on with them. They can get through the conflict, and I really feel that, like, once they get the hang of it, they're like, oh my, no
Uh,
problem. So we really value the expression of emotions in our school.
sorry, Cleo, you just cut out for a second, but I think everyone got it. It's
Okay,
okay.
cool. All
Okay.
right, good, good. All
All
right,
right,
make
should
my
I move on to
yeah,
the
go
meta
for it.
moment? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So another ruler tool, the meta moment. So again, this is a concrete tool that you can use with your students, with your children, with yourself. We're building self-awareness, and it breaks it down into 4 steps. So it's pausing before we react. So again, we teach students to pause and reflect before responding. It encourages imagining their best self and making thoughtful decisions. And we use a variety of calming strategies to empower them, to give them that moment to take the pause. So step 1 is asking the student to sense the moment. So really we do like a body scan with that. So sensing the moment, where are you feeling activated? You know, are you flushed? Are you feeling it in your stomach? Did somebody say something to you? You know, like in this moment, you know that you are being activated, you are being triggered. And then the tricky part is, I always say it's like the 4-second pause. If you can get that 4-second pause to stop and breathe. And I work really, like I'll do a couple of classes on breath work with kids because I really try to expand on their knowledge of just what it's like to breathe just regularly and what it's like to really like take that breath. You know, so sometimes they get irritated with me because I'm like, I did not see the bellies rise. I need to see the bellies rise. You know, so we really want to, like when I say stop and breathe, I mean got to take more than 4 seconds. And step 3, we see your best self. So again, these steps are broken down into what, you know, lessons with kids that I could take. You know, I could take upwards of like a couple of weeks getting through these. But your best self really to them is like, who are you when you are cruising, when you feel you're in alignment, when you are collaborating with your friends. So a lot of the times they'll say, well, it's when I'm being kind, it's when I am being considerate, it's when I am being a good friend, it's when I am letting someone go first, it's when I can say you take the turn. So it's compassionate, it's open, it's that will often be the vocabulary that they give me when they're expressing their best selves. And then step 4 is they strategize and act. So this is the moment where they get to make the better decision, the decision that leads them to, maybe it's the conversation about like, well, you know, you hurt my feelings, or it's in terms of, you know, maybe it's not like reacting when someone took my pencil. It's taking the moment, knowing that you have the mindset to say, you know, you just grabbed that off me and I don't like that. It makes me feel like you don't care, or whatever, fill in the blank. And how I teach kids this is I'll often jumble these up and I'll say, okay, now you guys put them in order. How does this work? You can't see your best self first. You have to know that you are being triggered, right? You got to feel it in your body. Then you have to know you need a pause. So you got to take that breath. And in the breath, then you remember that, well, actually, I can probably handle this with a little more dignity and maybe a little more compassion, in a way that by the time I make the choices, I'm going to make something that I can feel good about, that supports integrity. You know, and again, we don't do these things perfectly, but I feel like kids certainly, and adults sometimes, but definitely children need the steps, right? It can't just be make a better choice, right? Because when you're triggered, even as an adult, and certainly as a child, when you are triggered, you're like, you're reacting. So what we're doing is we're trying to teach them the self-awareness to know I'm activated right now and I need to respond and not react, in order for this to go the right way, so that I feel, and what happens is I feel like they're like, there's a strength, there's a muscle strength in this that like they get. And over time, it's like that becomes easier, right? Than losing my temper and throwing something across the room. Because although that never feels good, right? It never feels good for kids. But then they have to defend it, right? So they're like, well, I threw it because he took that and I need to da 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 da. So you're trying to slow everything down for them to sort of walk through the steps. And it's not perfect, and but it really is about giving them the map, the roadmap to success, is what I like to say. So the meta moment is very special in that, and a nice concrete tool for them to use too. So I think let's go on to the next slide. So I'm going to elaborate on the steps a little bit for you guys. So, sensing the moment, recognizing what is happening in the body. So, what does your body feel like when they are in an identified emotional state? So, some people, when they're very angry or anxious, they'll have sweaty palms. Is your face flushed? Do you have a stomach ache? Do you have restless legs? You really need to just move. Are they grinding their teeth? Now, my sort of my approach with students is not to identify in them, not to tell them, "Oh my gosh, your cheeks are all flushed. You must be really angry." It is to say, "Tell me what's going on. Where are you in the movie? Where are you feeling? I'm feeling really, really angry. Okay, well, let's do a body scan. Where is that? Where in your body are you feeling that? Oh, well, Miss O'Toole, it's just I just feel very tense. Well, where is it? Oh, it's in my hands. It's in my hands. So although their face might be bright red, I'm not saying that. This is their experience. So they will let me know so we'll go down the body. I have an outline of a body on my wall, and I give them a dry erase marker, and they'll be like, it's all here. My legs feel really achy. Or sometimes it's like I have my head just feels really heavy. So we're really just bringing them into the moment, into the present, what's happening in your body. I think for me, maybe something that happens is like I'll just, if I'm very nervous, if I'm about to do something that I don't do often and I'm very nervous about, I'll start yawning like a lot. So it's probably my brain just like trying to I don't know what it is, but that's what I do. So think about yourself, like what happens in your body when you're in an identified emotional state. So you're sensing that moment. Take the next slide. Okay. So pausing before we react. So step two again, that's stop and breathe. So we're going to go into a couple of just quick tools for you to use with your students, with your children. And these are probably two of the most effective, but like I'm sure you have more. There's a lot of apps out there, mindfulness. But I think one of the things I'd like to share is that building a mindful practice with your children, they can do it. I couldn't attach the picture I have of my kindergartners and myself where we began the meta moment in January and we were working up every week. We sat together, we were doing 1 minute of mindfulness. And by the end of the school year, they were sitting for 8 minutes. And that was quiet, kindergartners. So if you start small and be consistent, whatever the practice is that you want to share with your child or you want to bring into a classroom, my advice is just be consistent. If it's going to be the 1 minute, do the 1 minute every day. If it's going to be 30 seconds, 30 seconds every day. And really just that practice, that practice, that practice. And they'll probably get better than you at it, trust me. So one of the ones I like to use, and I use this K through 5. So this is pretty effective. So it's called 5-finger breathing. Anybody on the chat, have they done this with their kids before? 5-finger breathing.
I don't know, but there is a question about which we can get to at the end during Amira. We'll get this at the end in the Q&A. Any books to understand help regulating emotions and understanding them better.
Okay.
Anyway, but sorry,
Okay.
Cleo.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, happy to talk to you a little bit more about that, Mira, and I can certainly email you anything. I can do a little deep dive of that for you. But so we'll start with the palm and index finger of the opposite hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to model it for you once, and then maybe we do it together. Okay? Cool. All right. So um, index finger, bottom of the thumb. Okay. So. Oh, that's 10 breaths. that can stop a whole lot of trouble in a classroom or at home or in an airport or if you're stuck somewhere and your child really just needs a minute. So we're gonna do it together. So and really I invite you to, when I say breathe in, deep breath, fill your belly. Don't as much as you can get in, and then push that air out like you're blowing out 50 birthday candles. Okay. So let's try it together. So index finger, opposite hand, up the left side of the thumb. So for anyone who participated, pop it into the chat. Anything. I know I feel a little better actually. Just even some deep breaths. Whew. That's a lot more calming than I thought it would be. Yes, same. Yeah, it's relieving. Yeah, I can't really, the breath work with kids. It de-escalates a lot of situations in my school, and I think that, like, together with, as a parent, if my child can see me taking big deep breaths, they know that I'm in a state of, I might need a minute. Sometimes I'll just say this to my own children, like, that just means I just need a second to think, right? So I think apply that as you can, where you can, how you can. It is really, really effective. I often forget to breathe. It is, sometimes I remember I worked with a meditation teacher once, and she used to say, we sniff the air, right? We just kind of sniff in the air when we're going about our day. But the breath work, it gets into the central nervous system.
Sorry,
And with
all.
your children at home,
Oh,
it really is a very quick, effective tool to calm the central nervous system.
Cleo, sorry, you cut
Did
out
you hear
again,
me?
but we got you at the tail end. But I also just wanted, we're
All
at
right.
6:55. So
Okay.
so
So I
probably
do
we,
have a form.
yeah, what do
Do
you
you
think?
want to?
Do the
It's
meditation and
really
then
Yeah. Let's do that.
okay.
You want to do the 4 minute. Another tool for you to use at home with your students or your children, but go ahead. This is a nice one too.
Okay.
Rainbow relaxation. In this mindfulness practice, you will be stretching your muscles and breathing deeply. You can sit up straight or stand, but make sure you have some space at either side of you, as we will be raising our arms in the air. Make sure you're comfortable. Today, we are going to imagine that we are painting a rainbow in the sky, and your fingers are the paintbrushes. Start with your hands by your side and your palms facing forwards. Now, when you see the red band of the rainbow start to appear, keep your arms straight and trace it upwards with your paintbrushes. Great. Now the red band is painted, slowly bring your arms back down by your sides. Now you need to match your breathing to your painting. So when you raise your hands up for the next color, take a big breath in, and you can breathe out when you bring your arms back down. Get ready for the orange to appear. Imagine we have dipped our paintbrushes into orange paint. So breathe in and lift the arms up, and slowly back down as you breathe out. Now we're going to paint the yellow band. Imagine we have dipped our paintbrushes into the yellow paint. Breathe in as we paint the yellow band and lift your arms up Now breathe out as you drop your arms down. Now the green band. Breathe in as we paint the green band, arms up, and breathe out as you drop your arms down. Now the blue band. Breathe in as we paint the blue band, arms up, and breathe out as you bring your arms back down. Now the indigo band. Breathe in as we paint the indigo band, arms up, and breathe out as you bring your arms back down. And now for the final color, violet. Breathe in and lift your arms up, and breathe out as your arms come down. Well done. Each time you paint the rainbow, the colors are getting stronger and deeper. Your rainbow will shine around you all day and put a smile on everyone's face.
Thank you, Erica.
That was lovely.
It is a lovely one. I highly recommend that for all ages. And we'll go to the next slide when you have a sec. Okay, so step 3, seeing your best self. So the purpose of this step in the meta moment is to help shift the mindset away from emotionally charged reactive to a calmer values perspective. So in the video that you first watched when we started the webinar, they talked about a growth mindset. So a growth mindset is a mindset where there are options, you're exploring that you have choices. And I think that, like, with students, we always want to talk about a growth mindset with our children too, right? So you're asking your student, your child, imagine how the best version of you would handle this situation. So maybe it's something that happened and they didn't handle it very well. So maybe you're going backwards and you're saying, okay, how would your best self have handled that differently? They will speak about, like I said, their best self typically being kind, respectful, strong, fair, patient. So you want to help them visualize acting in alignment with those values. Sometimes it's helpful to write them down. Maybe they draw themselves. Some tapping into your self-concept and values activates that prefrontal cortex, which supports emotional regulation, right? So that's the opposite of your fight-flight mechanism, right? That's your it's your more evolved brain, right? And this interrupts the amygdala-driven fight-flight reaction, right? So you kind of want to move away from that, right? So we don't want students in fight-flight. We want them making decisions that are based in their values and their integrity and their strengths, right? We also want to empower and talk about what are your strengths in your best self, and then you operate from that place as best you can. And that helps them choose a response that maintains their relationships and their personal integrity. And then the last step is really strategize and act. So I'm going to give you an example that I might have with students. So the trigger is a classmate takes your pencil without asking. So the pause is steps 1, 2, 3. You're feeling triggered. You take a moment. You see your best self, right? You notice that you're frustrated. You take a breath. Step 4 is you strategize and act. Remembering your best self, fair, friendly, calm. You picture yourself and you say, hey, can you please give me that back? Or I was using that instead of snapping or something. So they get to choose how they want to do to make that decision. But they need the moment to pause in order to be able to choose the decision, if that makes sense. So and again, I've really distilled all this information down as simply as I can for you. So if you have any questions or if you need me to elaborate on anything, it's a lot of information and kind of all jammed in. I hope not too much, but if you have any questions, please pop them into the chat. And maybe if you can share with us anything that is a takeaway, or if the mood meter or the meta moment are things that you think that you can actually use in your home with your children or your students. Yeah,
So maybe
probably.
Cleo, maybe we could do both questions and any takeaways.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
there was this one question about books that are recommended. I have one. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's called Self-Rag by Stuart
Yeah,
Shanker.
that was in Mira. How old are the students or the children that you're looking to um, work with, Amira? Self-Read by Stuart Shanker. I haven't read that one yet, Erica. So,
It's really good.
mhm. I really love personally anything by Eckhart Tolle. I'm not sure if anybody in the chat is familiar with him. He is I mean, very simply known as like a meditation guru, but he touches on a lot. But one of his things is the power of positive thinking, and staying present. And he actually has a really nice children's book about animals and how they help keep us in the present. So if you have those really small children, it is more about understanding who are around so that I can help them with their emotions. Okay, Eckhart Tolle. Um, Who are around. So when you say who are around, Amira, what can you expand on that? I want to make sure I'm understanding uh, what your question is. I mean, I think helping them understand, I think the simpler the better. So the mood meter sounds like a very effective tool for you. Um, it really just starts with, and again, I'm not really sure the age of your child, but having them consistently check in with their emotional state as consistently as you can. And like I said, the visual tool can be very helpful for children. It can very simply live on your refrigerator, and it's a four quadrant red, red, yellow, blue, green. I've made some really pretty ones with felt. If you have fabric, if you can get really creative with it. But I think initially, because sometimes the books that might help you um, understand them, and but in terms of getting your children to express themselves, that's a tool that I think you can use like right away. And the more comfortable they become with that, you'll see, I think, more expansion on the vocabulary, whether what are the symptoms in their body that they feel, when did they get very stuck, which emotions are really hard, which ones did they find extremely unpleasant, you know, um, and then how to, if they are looking for your guidance in getting from unpleasant to pleasant, um, the very simply some of the breath work we did could be really helpful with that. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yes,
Any
Stephanie.
other questions or any final thoughts? We'd love to hear, if there's no other questions, we'd love to hear just one thing that you're going to take away with you uh, leaving this webinar. It gives us helpful feedback on what was helpful to you. So if everybody wouldn't mind just dropping one thing into the chat box, once one takeaway you have, once one thing you're going to try. It sounds like Amira is definitely going to try the mood meter, which is fantastic. Um, so we'd love to hear any other takeaways, some breathing exercises, um, definitely all of the emotional regulation activities, more breath work. Yeah. So I think we all feel that way. That was very relaxing. Mood meter, breath work, fantastic. And this presentation is going to be sent to everybody who registered. So you'll have all of this information, and you can look it up on your own, and you can, use it with yourself, with your children. So just to know that all of these resources will be available to you, and the webinar will also be posted, I think, on the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub website, so you could rewatch it. But if that's it for questions and everything, thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you all for the breath work. Seems like it was a real winner. Um, and we hope that you can use these tools with your children right away. And thank you so much for your participation and attending. And we hope you have a wonderful evening. And thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Lovely to have you all on here. Have a great evening.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.